If it was easy, the company would already have done these things, right? So why would they need us? This is part of what we do. And it's what we like to do in terms of really leading change within the organization. And to be able to unlock that growth opportunity for the organization, to streamline and make it more efficient for the rest of the employees of a company, and certainly make it easy for our customers to understand and consume what we do and take that burden off. To me, this is what marketing leaders sign up for, and it comes with the job, right?
And I feel that even though you have those moments of, did I go too far too fast? It's okay, right? It's okay to even fail a little bit. Everything's not going to be 100% every time. So it's the ability to be flexible enough to give yourself some grace if something goes sideways.
Hello and welcome to the Healthtech Marketing Show. I'm your host, Adam Chirinas. I'm the CEO of Health Launchpad, and thank you very much for listening. If this is your first time tuning in, please subscribe on whatever podcast app you use. We're on all of them. And a big thank you to our sponsors, our great friends at Healthcare Now Radio, the 24/7 online radio station dedicated to all things healthcare. And I always have to give a great plug for their podcast syndication network because it's done wonders for our show. It's extended our reach. You may be listening to it because of it. Now, today's episode, I want you to think for a moment about what it actually means to be a head of marketing at a health tech company. Not the title, not the strategy decks, not the metrics. I mean, the real thing. You're accountable for revenue impact without controlling sales. You're selling ideas to a CFO who wants to see ROI faster than your program can deliver it. You're pushing for organizational change, new approaches, new investments, new ways of thinking, and you're doing that in companies that often don't move quickly enough. And you're doing all of it knowing that if the big bet you just convinced leadership to make doesn't pay off, it lands on you. That takes a specific kind of courage, not the loud kind, not the kind you announce, the quiet kind, the kind that shows up every day in decisions that rarely get acknowledged until something either works or it doesn't. And that's what this conversation is about. I'm joined today by two people I've known for a long time and genuinely respect. Erik Johnson is VP of Marketing at Harmony Healthcare IT, and he's been through it in the last year or so. A major rebrand, scaling an ABM program from scratch, building out his team, all while navigating the personal weight that comes with leading a function where the stakes are real and the pressure is on. Steffany Whiting is EVP of Marketing at iMethods, and she's in the middle of her own version of the same thing. She's pushing an ABM program forward with all the changes that are incumbent on that and the challenges. They're overhauling their website, and they're making some pretty bold strategic calls about where to put the company's energy and where to pull back. So the stakes are pretty high for both of them. We talked about the fear and the doubt and the moments of second guessing and what keeps them going. And none of this is easy. In this episode, we get into what it's like to really be in the seat. The doubts, the moments of second guessing, and what keeps you going when none of this is easy. So with that, let's get on with the show and meet Erik and Steffany. Steffany, nice to have you on the show.
Thanks for having us. This is exciting. It's a little scary because we're going to be, potentially sharing some personal stories, but I do think that it's going to be a great conversation. I'm looking forward to it.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I am the EVP of Marketing at iMethods. I've been here 7 years now, but my career spans marketing and product management. I've been in the radiology segment. I've been on the provider side. I've been in the population health arena. So it's really been an interesting journey in the 20-something years. I won't go to the exact number. 20-something years I've been doing this, and an opportunity to really dabble in different aspects of the healthcare ecosystem. So really living in the services and solution space now has been a great time and a great opportunity to really make some impact to our client organizations.
Nice to have you on the show. Erik, you've been on the show before, and actually the idea, the genesis of this episode came out of a conversation that, you and I were having at Vive, and I think it's something that we've talked about a lot as we've got to know each other. So, Erik, tell the listeners out there a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Adam, and appreciate the opportunity to be on the show again. As you said, Erik Johnson, VP of Marketing, Harmony Healthcare IT. Been with the organization just shy of 2 years. Been in healthcare IT for, similar to Steff here, quite a long time, and have been in a variety of roles. Started in sales, worked in operations, but the back half and the majority of my career has been in marketing, product marketing, international marketing, marketing leadership. And so I've always felt that marketing is one of those functions that just kind of brings together all sorts of different facets of things that I really like to do.
Mm-hmm.
And in particularly in healthcare, healthcare is just honestly just a great place for I consider practicing marketing, just simply because, the stories are very human. The things that you work on are very real and have an impact. And so I've always felt really a great alignment between the mission of the products that I work on and what it is that we do and the opportunity to try to capture those stories. So that's probably why I've continued to stay in marketing and other things, because it's just kind of a right combination of all those things that I like to do.
Let's start with that. And Steffany, I've got a question for you, which is,
okay,
the pace of change is moving fast, and there's a pressure on marketing to keep up and to be particularly maybe even the leading edge on these sorts of things. And so the question is how does that environment shape the way you think about taking risks with big initiatives?
Well, I always say healthcare is not boring. There's a lot of opportunity for us to be heroes because there's so much opportunity. And, really, as you noted, healthcare is facing a lot of headwinds in a lot of different areas. And so how do we really tap into what our customers are dealing with, and how do we make an impact on their outcomes and their ability to deliver patient care through what we do? So when we're taking big swings and, we start to sort of worry about perhaps, have we overshot? Have we missed the mark? Where do we go? I find myself really reframing it around that mission and thinking through, okay, why are we here again? We're here to improve patient outcomes. So let's back up, almost reverse engineering our position in that regard to really sort of bring me, I don't know if you guys are familiar with some of these like leadership models where you're above center, you're below center. So if you're above center, you're thinking confidently, you're thinking positively, you're thinking optimistically. And if you're below center, you're operating from a place of fear. So if I find myself getting a little fearful, I'm like, okay, what's the cause? And I've been doing this a few minutes, so I feel like I've got some experience to bring to the project, whatever it might be, and really think about why we're doing it. It always goes back to the why. So if it's efficiency, if we're really bringing value, if we're meeting corporate goals, then I have to trust that decision is worth any personal risk. I don't really think it's personal risk. We do work very closely together and have a lot of trust among our leadership team. So I feel like I've built that credibility over time that people are like, okay, she's got it. And, if it doesn't go perfectly well, that there's a little grace given because we are trying new things. But ensuring alignment with stakeholders and making sure that people have buy-in really softens that whole risk and impact, sort of calculus.
Now, you've placed a few big bets recently. We'll dive into those more specifically, but just kind of at a sort of high level, have there been any moments where, the recent big bets, it's actually felt, a little bit more personal? The weight of it was like, this is, okay.
It was a big bet in reverse is what we did. So my moment of, angst came when we really made the decision to go all in. Not that we weren't moving ahead with ABM implementation, and we knew we needed to revamp our website, and we had a lot of new technologies in the company and new solutions. We're rebranding, so much going on, that we decided that 2026 was the year we were going to step back from having events drive our leads and really backed up. And my team has been spending an enormous amount of time for many years, really focusing on, event engagement, bringing people to the table, having those conversations, building those relationships. And it felt like a loss. And I thought, oh my gosh, what have I done? Have I gone too far with that? Yeah. So it's been a really interesting year. But now that we are in the midst of all of these other major undertakings, I don't know where we would have had the time. Like, it's actually been a balance, and it's been a nice opportunity to take stock of what the impact of that is. And it's not that we're not places, but we really decided to just take a pause.
Yeah.
And it gives us the ability to be laser focused on what we're working on, but also reframe how we're going to approach the event universe in 2027, because it's not going to look the same as it did in the past.
I think for anyone who hasn't quite got their head around it, is a big risk because, I think a lot of the sales, first of all, events for most companies in this space is most likely the biggest investment in marketing.
Absolutely.
And there's also a sense of expectation with the salespeople that those events are going to happen. So when you're taking those away for a very rational reason, that I can imagine creates some consternation.
Yeah. It was a joint decision. So it wasn't as though we made the decision in a vacuum. So I always go back to alignment and collaboration about all these decisions so that people have a stake in it and they realize that maybe we weren't getting as much out of the events as we had hoped because everyone was focused on all these other things. There's only so much people can absorb. And so being able to say, okay, you're off the hook this year for this, we're going to be there in a smaller capacity, has given us an opportunity to reset. And I'm really excited about 27 because the pendulum will sort of swing back to the middle.
Good. Erik.
One program that I think of in particular has been our ABM program that we started in 2024.
Let's dive in on that a bit because, ABM, both of you are doing ABM, and it's something which sounds straightforward in practice. Sounds like to people, it's straightforward in theory, but in practice, it's really hard, and it's hard to make work, and takes a long time to see the payoff. And you're asking leadership and sales to, hey, be patient. That's sort of like that whole way we were just feeding you leads. That's going to change now. We're going to do this in a different way. And if it doesn't work, I mean, let's face it, you now own it because you've pushed that. So Erik, talk about how you came to terms with the risks around it, but also how you dealt with it with the folks who were not in marketing, like the sales folks, the leadership folks, product, whoever it was, a CFO. How have you brought them along and mitigated the risk?
Yeah, but most importantly, I try to make every stakeholder be a part of the process as much as they can be. So it's not just a marketing initiative, it's a commercial initiative. And so it's part of a broader strategy when we're talking about ABM. It's not just that marketing is embarking on a campaign that looks like this. No, it's actually, we are going to start holistically focus in on something that is different related to a specific set of accounts. And we're going to approach them differently. We're going to speak to them differently. We're going to look to engage them in ways that they haven't been engaged before. Or in a lot of cases, we're also talking about accounts that, we don't know them as much as they don't know us. And so therefore, we're trying to do something that is actually making a better, much more efficient use of our resources versus trying to approach them in, other more traditional ways using SDRs or just trying to cold call. And so with that in mind, I really try to make it be part of a much more broader commercial strategy where marketing is going to do something different. And collectively, as long as the organization is understanding what it is we're doing a good job of articulating our progress, being transparent with numbers that we have, and then ensuring that sales is bought in. More importantly, sales sees this as a partnership or an extension of what it is that we're doing. Then I feel like we're mitigating some of the uncertainty there as best we can. And so whether that's considered risk or not, it's risky in that, it's hard to project how predictable this is going to be, where there are certain things that you do that has a certain level of predictability. And as marketers, we want that engine all the time, right? Meaning that put the coins in and pull the lever and then out comes your output. And that doesn't work this way. And so therefore, if there's anything that's navigating that uncertainty, but most importantly, communicating and taking and looking for small wins where you get them. And because this is a stacking of a lot of smaller wins that lead to something.
Yeah, so let's just drill down on that a little bit, because I think you're in like year 3 now of ABM, right? The first year was a pilot year, it wasn't a full year. Last year was, I think, the full year. This is the full probably second full year. In that initial period, how did you sort of build and maintain confidence with leadership and sales that this is going to work?
Well, specifically, typically we're articulating this right directly to a CFO, usually.
Oh, yeah.
What are you doing with this spend? And then, tell me what I'm getting for it. So, I mean, you have to have some sort of quantification of what you're doing, right? And so it does start with the numbers, but it's numbers that tend to be different, right? And you're talking about volumes or in other types of metrics that might be most likely new, right? Most organizations are familiar with some sort of a lead concept, call it what you want, MQL, SQL. We're talking about now much more higher level, a little bit more abstract metrics like impressions, right? Some sort of engagement. But we set it up that way, then at least then we're saying and being consistent with, yes, this is part of that program, right? This is an account that doesn't know us. We don't know them, but we can see that as of this date, we are guiding them down a prescriptive path. And as long as we can keep them within those guide rails and be very transparent, I've generally experienced success basically saying with almost informal stage gates along the way that basically says, hey, at any point in time, we can turn this off, right? I mean, this can stop, but of course, all of that engagement will stop too this way. Mm-hmm. We'll have to figure out a different way to do it. And the answer has, so far, no, continue to proceed.
Keep going.
So, take organizational belief and engagement to across multiple departments, right? Mm-hmm. If this is a solo mission and marketing just taking a flyer, then it's probably going to be received, with harder support just because it feels more like a marketing for marketing's sake initiative versus something that's much more organizationally and commercially supported.
Well, it does unfortunately named our account-based marketing, right? I think that the problem is in the name because it does seem fairly siloed in the respect that it is it's called marketing, but it's not. It's really, all things.
Talk about how you approach that and how that's going.
As I mentioned earlier, it's about collaboration, engaging sales on the front end, from everything from choosing our high potential accounts to go into that bucket of ABM accounts that we'll pursue, getting their input on who those organizations are. They're not getting traction. These are groups that we want to work with that fall into our ideal client profile. But as we know, we're doing activities or engaging in projects that align with our solutions. So it's been an interesting conversation to have that it's before the pipeline. It's way before the sales pipeline. It's feeding the sales pipeline at a level that predates what they're used to getting. It's not a one in, one out lead prospect. It's a brand building exercise in many respects. These organizations don't know us. So that as we build the brand through this engagement and elevate our engagement with them to a point where they're actually visiting our website, they're answering our emails, they're interested, they're filling out forms, whatever the activity may be, that we're going to catch them when they're ready to buy. Because what's the stat? 5% of people are actually shopping for anything at any given point in time. But if they don't know who you are before that, you're not even going to hit the mark on that engagement when you are in the right place at the right time. So it's really about helping the sales team understand that your other activities will continue. The spray and pray sort of approach is not going to be as prevalent, but that doesn't slow you down. You still have sales enablement tools. We're still going to support you. We're still going to do some events in some form or fashion next year and continue to do some this year, but really are focusing in a very almost surgical strike approach for accounts that are our highest potential opportunity, whether it's new logos or even expanding a footprint in existing accounts.
Got it. Yeah, so you're not ripping the Band-Aid off. You're basically saying, we're adjusting levels. And
let us take this off your plate. We've got it. And yeah.
It's Adam here. What Erik and Steff are talking about, the doubt, the pressure, the moments of second guessing, that's not just a marketing challenge. That's a leadership challenge. And it's one that a lot of marketing leaders face alone. At Health Launchpad, we work with health tech marketing leaders one-on-one through our leadership coaching program. This helps you get clarity on the big calls and helps you build confidence with your executive team. And we've helped several executives lead through the hard stuff with a little more of that quiet courage that Erik and Steff are talking about. If that sounds like something you could do with a little help with right now, book a call with me through the link down below in the show notes. With that, let's get back to the show. So that's rebrands, website overhauls, those kind of things, and adding and also building out the teams. Erik, you've taken on a major rebrand and also grown the team. And those are high visibility, hard to reverse bets. What gave you the confidence to push for them? And how did you manage the downside risk of that?
Yeah, I guess in terms of confidence, just having been through sort of an organizational transformation, if you will, and being part of leading that effort, it's one of those things that I just feel like if you have strong conviction of it in terms of a company and where they're at and their readiness and their need, then for me, it's just following through, but then also setting the organization up for managing the expectations of what it is, though, that you're really asking the organization to do. And to me, you're managing risk because you're also going to, whether the organization knows it or not, you're also going to put them through a certain amount of organizational change that sometimes is unanticipated when you go through a refresh. Because at the end of the day, that's really what it is all of a sudden, one day you wake up and you look like X and tomorrow you look like Y. And you have to bring people along to be a part of that. And that is actually the most challenging part of any of those projects. Now, albeit some of the most rewarding as you walk your leadership through, or founders. Most of the cases, the hardest challenge is working with founder-led companies because this is their baby, right? And now you're asking them to do something or visualize that a little differently. And I definitively remember those kinds of conversations because you go into this meeting and you're asking them to buy into something that's a concept, right? And the result of their answer can dramatically change. It's pretty binary. They're going to go support it or not. And it's usually at the expense of going back to the drawing board, which can have pretty significant implications of your project. But the reality of it is that I think with the organizational belief and setup and expectation setting, that you can manage through those. And as long as folks are part of that process, then they're more often more willing to be bought in as seeing it as a partner, as opposed to being a recipient of something that you're asking them to react to, and therefore maybe not going to be as much bought in as possible. So to me, that process of project managing is all about managing risk and expectation and getting them to be bought in as part of it. So therefore you don't go too far along with something in only to then go live to find out then that you don't have organizational support. Fortunately, I've not experienced that. So therefore, all of the steps that
it's certainly gone well. So, Steffany, I think you guys are either in the process or have done a website overhaul, and that touches everyone and pleases no one until it's done.
Right.
So what does it take to hold the line on a project like that when the pressure to compromise starts building?
Well, fortunately, we have, as a company, really expanded our portfolio. The website that we currently have in place, that's about to be replaced, has had about a 7-year run. And so it has some technical limitations as it relates to incorporating some of the ABM intent tracking and some of the programmability that we would like to have, and AI searching and that side of things. So really it was time, regardless, to do something different. And the stars sort of aligned with regard to expanding our solution offerings, and also an opportunity to just rethink the whole thing, just throw all the cards in the air and rethink the entire approach. And it was a leadership team decision to do this. It wasn't a marketing led only event. We came forward and said, I think this is the year. We're going to do it. This has changed. This has changed. It's time to go. And we enlisted the input of all of the key stakeholders in the messaging, because it's not just about rebranding what we're offering. It's also changing the way we talk to our customers. So from a standpoint of versus the traditional, we're so amazing, we have all these awards and this is us and don't you want to work with us? It really is about building credibility by understanding the buyer's reality. Because as we talked about at the top of the podcast, the pressures that are on all of our customers are just so tremendous, whether it's regulatory issues or financial issues or pick a problem, AI implementations and governance, all the types of things they're dealing with. We need to make sure that they know that we get it. And it's been an opportunity to just rethink the entire messaging strategy. And it coincided with a lot of other major corporate initiatives. So it was a good time to do it for lots of reasons. And having that early buy-in and ownership from key stakeholders has made that whole risk of redesign. I'm at that point now, Eric, where I said, okay, here's the draft. It's your last chance. Everybody speak up. So we're doing that right now before we go into development, the final development of the site. But it's a whole redo.
With all of the types of initiatives we've just been talking about, were there ever times when you second guessed yourself? And then if you did, what brought you back?
I'll say sure, right? I mean,
Yeah.
You're only human to go, okay, I mean, am I doing the right thing? Did I do the right thing? Is this the right recommendation? When you're operating within your constraints, it's usually time, budget, and resources. And the reality of it is coming back to also believing that, hey, you are still doing the best you can with what you have, right? But sure, I think that there's, could there be a different way to do it? Absolutely, right? Could I, I wish I would be working with X and Y. Of course, right? But the fact of the matter is, this is what you're working within right now. And so therefore, still believing in what it is that you're doing. So try to calm those voices a little bit sometimes when they creep up, right? Because yeah, truly. But again, I still come back to, if it was easy, the company would already have done these things, right? So why would they need us? This is part of what we do. And it's what we like to do in terms of really leading change within the organization. And to be able to unlock that growth opportunity for the organization, to streamline and make it more efficient for the rest of the employees of a company, and certainly make it easy for our customers to understand and consume what we do and take that burden off. To me, again, I would say that this is what marketing leaders sign up for, and it comes with the job. Right. So
how about you, Steffany?
Absolutely, Adam. I mean, of course, I'd be lying too if I wouldn't say, did I do that? Okay. Yeah. No, we're doing it. So
yeah, there are those concerns, and there's the, oh my gosh, have we taken on more than we can tackle? Right. We're doing so many things in tandem, and I find myself, explaining a lot about, it always comes back to the why. So if you can be true to your why and convey to the organization, this is why we're doing it. Yes, it's going to be a little painful along the way. Yes, I'm going to have my moments of doubt, but by and large, to your point, it is the right thing to do. It is the necessary thing to do. It's where healthcare is going. It's where our company is going. And I feel that even though you have those moments of, did I go too far too fast? It's okay, right? It's okay to even fail a little bit. Everything's not going to be 100% every time. So it's the ability to be flexible enough to give yourself some grace if something goes sideways, and just be able to be nimble enough and have a nimble enough team to pivot to address that and manage this constant, because it's not, we're still doing all the other things marketing does while these are happening. So it's not as though that stops. So this is just really a matter of trusting that you have your eye on the right thing.
I want to ask you both the question, which I feel comfortable asking because I know you well enough to know that I doubt you're feeling this in your current roles, but you've both had long careers and there may be places where you felt this. But have you ever had a period where you genuinely weren't sure that you weren't the right person for trying to do what you're doing? And how did you work through that? And I'll be fair, I will do it myself. So I had a period of running a software company. I was thinking I don't know how to raise money. I don't have a particularly technical background. I've never run a SaaS business. And it was hard. It was really hard. How about for you guys? I mean, have you had that experience in past lives that you feel comfortable talking about?
I will, only because I remember, and this ties back to some folks that Eric works with, but I remember my first job in product management. And it is very closely aligned to marketing. Obviously, we're all attached at the hip, certainly when it comes to software product development.
Yeah.
And I had zero experience in product management. I was really learning as we went. The organization that I was with at the time didn't have a lot of product management expertise. So we were locked arms and it wasn't Harmony, by the way. It was a different company, just for clarity. But, it was an opportunity to really feel like you were, jumping off a cliff with no net, right? There was nothing there. And it was, but I will say, those are the opportunities when you learn the most about what you're made of. And those are the chances to really grow as a leader and a professional. And so at the time, I probably wouldn't have had that answer. But looking back on my career, I feel like those are the moments where I probably grew the most. And so I continue to keep that perspective as I'm, trying new things. And looking back on a career with those types of experiences does help you with the perspective of the today's, angst that you might have about something. It's all relative. So there were harder times, harder moments in the career. Erik, what about you?
Yeah, I go back earlier in my career. I did a lot of operational work. I mean, literally to the extent where I was leading warehouse automation implementations, operation.
Wow, I didn't know that, babe.
Out on a warehouse floor. And mostly from the standpoint that I felt like if I was really going to understand this through the eyes of the customer, I felt like I needed to experience it from that side of the business. But did I ever see myself leading implementations like that? No. Did I figure it out? Yeah, I did. And to me, that's just I think to your point, Steff, the same part of it is maybe it's just kind of part of the DNA of just making sure that you'll figure it out, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of part of it, but that's how you grow. And you have to put yourself into relatively uncomfortable positions sometimes because that's how you're going to continue to build new skills. That's how you're going to come out of the other side of that with some experiences that you didn't know exactly all the answers, right?
Right.
And I think that's even more important than anything these days is getting people outside their comfort zone a bit so that they can continue to learn because the opportunity there on the other side is so great but you're still going to have to go through the challenge, right?
There's one other characteristic that I think marketers in particular have to have, and that's resilience. So I'm curious, where does your respective resilience come from?
Hard one. Challenge. Getting beat up a few times along the way. Well, no, I think that being resilient in this business and healthcare in particular, so I can't speak for other industries because I've been in healthcare for so long, but I think the resilience is the sort of the North Star of why we're here. I feel like there are very few people I know in healthcare, whether it's on the vendor side, the technology side, the clinical side, who aren't here for the same reason, which is to improve the quality of healthcare that patients receive. We are all very mission-driven people, by and large, and the resilience comes in with knowing that that's what you're here for, like doing the right thing for all those downstream people you're impacting, your family members, we're all patients, and staying true to the mission of healthcare is whenever I have my doubts, I'm like, wait a minute, this is okay. These are things that align with why I got into healthcare in the first place, regardless of what segment I might be in or what, silo I might be working in at the time. I think that the survival of all the challenging times, saying, yep, did that, check, move on to the next thing, be able to prove that you can tolerate some risk, you can tolerate the challenges, you can rise above it and learn from it, and then apply that to the why for why we're all here and what we're doing for the good of the organizations we serve and the patients they serve is really what kind of keeps me, resilient.
Erik, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I'll piggyback a bit on what Steff said in terms of I'm a believer in the mission, right? And so I'm very motivated in terms of the products that we work on. I'm also motivated by the pursuit of excellence, though, right? Like the belief of how you can continuously try to improve in your craft, right? And I think as a result of that, you end up with some built-in resiliency if you're believing that, hey, I'm still in pursuit of the best thing that I can ever do, right? And, I've met some amazing people, and those are the folks that you can learn from, right? And so I feel like I'm not speaking about other disciplines, but you can never be done with learning. And I think this is a continuous learning space and job. And that is either going to be really invigorating or motivating, or maybe that is actually really scary, right? And perhaps maybe that this isn't the right fit, right? Because to me, this is what marketing is extremely dynamic. But that makes it really exciting, right?
Yeah.
Closing question for both of you. I want to go back to your way back time machine there, Erik. So if you were to go back in time and talk to the younger up and coming marketing leader self, it could be any period in time. Could be 2 years ago, could be 20 years ago. You pick when. What piece of advice would you give the you from the past?
Well, first and foremost, I would have created an agent of myself so I could ask myself a question, right?
Go around in circles.
Yeah, right? I would have asked the future Erik that question. Of course, I have to say that right now because it's an actual thing.
Is a thing. I was literally just talking about it in a conversation with my team about 20 minutes
I'm going to create my own agent of myself. Probably should do that. To me, I think it just goes back to a lot of the same kind of core values of who you are, that the organizations that you choose to work for and the people that you choose to work with, and just the way that you generally go about how you treat people and others, that those are things that you learn. You're a product of your environment early on, right? And so, it's kind of like if you're talking to, I think about the things that I talk to my college age kids right now that I know become really important habits that end up being predictors of success. And those building great habits is where it all starts, right? And that's personally and that's professionally. And those professional habits end up opening are the things that generate luck, are the things that generate opportunities, right? The things that open up doors for you when you're not really sure where it's going to come from. And so, those are the things that I go back to. And that's actually less about any other marketing and a lot more just simply about following good habits that end up being really good predictors, ideally, of opening and finding your opportunities. Because, like I said, I ended up being in marketing, not necessarily because I sought it out. It's just simply because it was the next opportunity that I got, right? And that ends up being a career journey when you're given the chance to go prove yourself again.
How about you, Steffany?
I think I would tell my younger self to trust what you know, right? Trust that you are bringing something valuable to the table, whether you're 29, 39, or 49. You come with a set of expertise. You come up with a set of skills. I think, as we were talking about earlier, a lot of the marketers I know are sort of wired similarly. I think we seek out knowledge. I think we enjoy a little bit of risk and a little bit of trial and error. And I think that my younger self could have benefited from allowing myself to be comfortable trying new things, really stepping out and putting myself on the line, maybe a little bit more. Now, granted, I'm not sure that person would have listened given whatever was going on in the organization at the time, wherever I might have been. But there is certainly an element of confidence I would share. I remember my first job in healthcare, and I knew nothing about a management service organization from a banana. I had no knowledge at all. And I just was surrounded by really good people who were willing to mentor me and take me on and help me grow. So I think another piece of advice, and I tell my kids this too, Erik, speaking of our children, is to seek out good mentors. Like, find people who are who you want to be in 10, 20 years and be those, and then be those people, So I've got my team, I'm trying to work with them, to bring them up and upskill them and have them look to find mentors within and without the organization. So I do think, trust yourself, trust your skills, be a little bit more assertive sometimes, perhaps, and then seek good counsel along the way.
So that's a conversation I've wanted to have for a while. And I think Erik and Steffany delivered in a way that goes well beyond the polished version of what you hear. I really appreciated their candor and the authenticity of what they had to say. I've got a few takeaways for you. So takeaway number one, alignment isn't just good practice. It's how you manage personal risk. Both Erik and Steffany were emphatic about this. Before you launch the big initiative, get the stakeholders inside it with you. ABM isn't a marketing program, it's a commercial program. A website overhaul isn't a marketing project, it's a company decision. The more ownership you can distribute before you go public, the less exposed you are if it gets hard. Takeaway 2, reframing risk isn't a cliche, it's a discipline. Erik made a distinction that really struck me. He doesn't really think about his work in terms of risk. He thinks about it in terms of opportunity. And he goes in accepting that the plan will change and that it'll be hard and that believing in it anyway is part of what the job requires. And that's not naive optimism. That's a deliberate reframe that keeps you moving forward when the signals are mixed. Takeaway 3, when doubts creep in, come back to the why. Both guests describe the same thing independently. When you're in the middle of something that isn't working and the inner voice starts asking if you went too far, the thing that anchors you is returning to the mission. Why are we doing this? Who does it serve? That question doesn't eliminate the doubt, but it puts it in perspective. And in healthcare especially, that mission level answer tends to be a pretty good compass. Takeaway 4, your hardest moments are your best teachers. Both Erik and Steffany went back to earlier points in their careers, moments where they were genuinely in over their head, and they both reframed those as the experience that built them the most. For example, Steffany jumping into product management with no net, Erik leading warehouse automation on a factory floor. The discomfort wasn't incidental to the growth, it was the growth. So if you're in the middle of something uncomfortable right now, that actually might be a very good sign. Takeaway 5, resilience in this industry is mission-driven, not just personality-driven. Steffany made a point that really stuck with me, that the resilience she draws on in hard moments comes from knowing why she's in healthcare in the first place. The downstream impact, the patients, the organizations being served, that North Star is what brings her back above center when things get hard. And I think that's something uniquely powerful about this industry. Most of us aren't here by accident, and that matters more than we give it credit for. Thanks so much to Erik and Steffany for being so candid. It genuinely takes courage to talk about courage, and they didn't hold back. If this episode resonated, please share it with a marketing leader you know who's in the middle of something hard right now. Because I think that's who this conversation was really, really for. And by the way, a 5-star rating on Spotify or Apple goes a long way in helping new listeners find the show. And if you'd like to talk about any of this in context of your own organization, there's a link in the show notes to book a call with me. Nothing to sell, genuinely happy just to have a chat and compare notes. I'm Adam Chirinas, and I'll see you on the next episode of the Healthtech Marketing Show.